And we're live. Hello and welcome everyone to another 40k Frontier Showcase. With us today, we've got the beautiful and handsome man himself, Işık. How you doing, buddy?
I'll not reject any of those accusations because I am very handsome.
Very humble, very humble. Hey,
I'm good. How are you?
Good, man. Good. Thank you for making time for us. So, obviously, over this past weekend, held the Winter Championship, so a 5-man team event in Croatia, and also, if you don't know, Işık, one of the big hosts or one of the organizers of WTC for the previous years, and one of the was the host for the WTC Squadcast Into the Squad, which had 24 episodes and talked to various countries on the lead up to the previous or the first WTC, and a personal inspiration of mine, like one of my favorite hot podcasts of for Hammer related. So thank you for joining us, and looking forward to our chat.
Yeah, I should start that podcast again because it was fun to interview the captains and just shoot the shit. But that's the main point with the Squadcast. It's like I know you see all those people in the WTC if you attend it anyway, but it's a nice excuse to reminisce the old events. And because WTC would have been the first time last year as WTC, it was a great opportunity to see what the captains wanted, which is not that easy to understand. It's actually quite difficult to make people say what they want.
Exactly. I mean, like each country has their own like sort of traditions and origins and like how they want to see events done and organized and stuff like that. And it was good insight. And like, yeah, as you said, like hearing from all the various captains, like some think about one thing, others want one thing. It's like, you can't make everyone happy, so you got to try somewhere meet in the middle, right?
It's the contrast I always liked is that some teams have all the money but not time or the players. Like Norway, Switzerland, Luxembourg have different problems each. They don't have money problems, but Norway is a problem of reaching for the other part of Norway. But Luxembourg guys are just too few people, so it was peculiar to see different countries' problems.
Exactly. I think Luxembourg. It's funny you bring up Luxembourg. It's one of my favorite episodes because it was funny how talking to all the community, just the context of like travel. It's like, I have to travel more than 30 minutes. Nah, it's not happening.
The Luxembourg one, yeah. It's like if I leave my house, the closest shop in Istanbul is like 15. Not the closest shop, but the closest subway station is 15 minutes walking away. And like, really? That's the barrier of entry. You guys are having problem. That's so alien, and to hearing that from different countries was fascinating.
Yeah, it's completely different. So you said you wanted to try and start it again. Do you have any countries in mind that you would like to try and interview again, or talk to, or just go for the list and go from there?
Yeah, I think I should start with the ones that I haven't interviewed. Although the captains have changed for the past ones as well, which is for a let's say, because the podcast is that one is not timely. It is and it's not timely at the same time because the problems of certain countries don't really change that fast. However, the captains change and their approaches change as well, which is actually interesting. For example, in some years, this let's say the Greeks have a problem of getting to WTC in certain years, but sometimes they have an entirely different problem of internal discussions. Like this was a big thing back in 2016 with them. Anyway, don't let me go into that rabbit hole. Each team has drama similar to your own country, and I've spoken to like a dozen or 2 dozen of them, and that will never end. I will just go through the past team dramas at all, so we shouldn't get into that.
We'll be stuck here for ages going for the past, going for list. But we forgot to mention, so Işık, so like obviously you're involved with Warhammer quite a bit with your WTC, Alpine Cup, etc. We could go on forever and ever. Mm-hmm. But how did you get into 40k, and like how long have you been playing for?
Well, I'm comparatively young to the crowd in general, although not young anymore, but I'm 32. And I started playing computer games. The Dawn of War was my first 40k thing. And so I don't know how you got in, but like, hey, 40k, this thing that with the Marines and the servitors look cool. Wow, what's this Dark Eldar thing in the Into the Storm? And Then I found out it has books, and when I went to a gaming store, this is back in 2009 or so, they said that they have models as well. I'm like, oh, I didn't know this was a thing, and they invited me to come at the weekend where the local club was showing up, and I just did, and it was okay. This is pretty neat. This is actually pretty nice. I should order some and get some models myself, which turned out okay, which was pretty neat.
Yeah, fantastic. What did you like start with any particular army in mind, or did you just collect everything and anything?
For the very first weeks, I sort of ordered randomly from eBay. But it's because that was back then, and I didn't know better. But then I got into the Grey Knights, which was back with the 3.5 Demon Hunters Codex. The Grey Knights didn't have their codex back then, and it was a weak codex, but that didn't matter because I was just doing what you and essentially what you do as a 19-year-old kid. So not a super idiot, but not super smart either. That you just push model, and the Grey Knights looked cool because they were magicians with machine guns and like magic weapons. So why not?
What would you want? Magic guns, magic weapons. What else could you want?
Yeah, indeed. Like I don't know, what was your first army?
I started with Battle character, like very similar to you, Ishik. Though, like Dawn of War got me into 40k. Like that sort of got me in a long time ago, and off and on, I've collected armies over the time. But Tune is still my bread and butter, my love. So, this show's not about me, so we can talk off there about all the good times and all that jazz.
Okay.
So it's all good. It's all good. So yeah, and like so you said, you roughly got in. I think it was 2016. You started playing competitively, and like how did you sort of come about with learning about or was it ETC back then? Did you instantly start playing in the ETC, or did you just come across it while playing competitively?
This, like, my story is the general story of the Turkish international ETC community, because the first team that went there was the fantasy team in 2015, and 2016 event was ETC was in Greece, and it being so close, and it sort of lit a fire in the community in general, and we were from just 0 teams in 2014, 1 team in 2015, and then 4 teams with X-Wing, Flames of Honor at that point, 9th and 40k. We decided to go as a group because we all know each other. This is something different than what I seem to notice from other countries. In Turkey, the community is not that big, so you can actually meet every tabletop player in every game. It's not that big of a community, so you can. I know, unless they have started, let's say after the COVID times, I should have met all the 9th Age, X-Wing, Flames of War, even bolt action players, and uh, that's that's one of the things that's different. And so we decided to try give it a shot in 2016 because it was like always a dream. It's like if you never attended those big events, you wanna give it a shot. I was always a competitive player, so the competitive aspect wasn't new. Although getting kicked in the teeth by the proper players is always a nice touch. It's like, you think you know the game? No, you don't. Unless you attend the WTC, you don't really know how to play 40k. It's this happens with the Americans a lot as well, who are, I don't mean to right, but who are, let's say, big shots in the USA scene, and then they come to WTC, they come to Europe in any way, and then some bald guy named Skark, who they never heard of, beats them in turn 2, 20-0, and they don't understand what's going on. Then a country they can locate on the map gives them a fair shot and takes some point out of them, and which is which which is the most fascinating part, and that's usually how it went for us as well. It's not just the good players in general; it's even for the smaller countries. You you are the best player in your country. Let's say you are you're lucky if you win 2 out of your 6 games in the WTC at the first time. Then you sort of get into the WTC meta, and you sort of learn okay, there are some intricacies in it, and if I just get into touch with these people, attend maybe the same events if possible, and learn from them as with genuine interest, not by following battle reports which are not don't have the super detailed, let's say, more casual sense. Mini wargaming, although they are very good, mini wargaming is a casual battle reporter, and but if you get into the proper WTC scene, you then learn about it being almost as being own game with the pairing processes and the faction limitations and the WTC FAQ and terrain rules, which means that it is a 40k within 40k, and some people don't like that, but it's what it is. And we enjoy it for ourselves, and everybody who seems to give it a fair shot understands the benefits, although they might not choose it. Like they might stay, okay, let's say the terrain part is usually one of the most divisive ones with that separate WTC to other systems or tournament formats. If you actually give the WTC terrain a fair shot, you might say, okay, it's too dense, it's difficult to use big models, but at least you'll understand the benefit of it, which is, okay, there is a design principle, and we put that design principle into, like, we wanted to aim some goals. We didn't want to do it just because I want to sell more terrain. We didn't change the terrain dimensions from 9 to 9 to 9 to 5. We changed it because 9th edition does not work with the same terrain as 8th. And everybody changed that since then. And as you put up, this is the Winter Championship, which is this is a mixture of the WTC and the standard terrain. This is the standard terrain, as you can see. It's 9 inches to 9 inches walls, but this one you see is the WTC standard. But Titania again.
Yeah,
you are.
You're right. Sorry, I was going to give some examples of. So for people who are watching the YouTube video, so got some photos from the Winter Championship, which. So you go away.
I'll just describe it from the pictures then. As you can see, the 9 and 5, the L's, as the infamous L's goes, it's designed to provide maximum line of sight block with the minimal movement block. So it's actually on purpose designed to be more melee oriented, although it wasn't designed for the melee orientation. It was more designed to be, we cannot have games that end on turn 1. People come from thousands of kilometers away. People come from Australia, Canada, USA, Mexico, all parts of Europe, and next year they will be hopefully from New Zealand and Israel and Cyprus. So we cannot have games that end on turn 1. That's the prime directive, and everything else comes from it. Like, as you can see, there's at least 18 to 20 inches of obscuring line of sight block on every deployment zone. So you can at least hide and make a game out of it. And the WTC rules, you get points. You don't have to win the game because it's a team tournament. Even if you don't lose more than 50 points, you contribute something to your team's score, which means you just need to get 50 points, because 51 plus is a 20. If you get 50 points, assuming even your opponent gets 100, you contribute to your team's scores. So you can't even, like, there might be some games where your captain pairs you against your worst fears, and you say, okay, I don't even have to roll a single dice, I don't even have to deploy, I know I'm going to lose this game, but I don't have to lose that hard. And if I don't lose that hard, I'll contribute to my team's score. And if you ever played at a team event, you might have encountered this scene. So you imagine yourself, you're playing, you have sort of zoned out. All the other games of your team is over. It's just your game, and it's 10 minutes to end of round. And your captain asks, and it's the first time in 2 hours that you have actually lifted your head from the table, and you say, okay, what's the score? And you say, I'm going to lose. And say, that doesn't matter, what's the score? And you say, I'm going to lose 2 to 18. And then his face brightens up, because that's the 2 points your team needs for a win. And he tells you, you're doing a great job. Just keep at it. Don't take any risks. and just finish the game. And you don't understand because he hasn't told you that your team is going to win. And what happens is you do the handshake, and there's this silence. Well, although there's lots of things going around, there's silence in the immediate vicinity. And then your captain asks you, what's the score? And you say, it's 2-18. I got the 2 points. And then your entire team cheers, and you don't understand what's going on. And then they tell you, we got the win because of your 2 points. It's 86-74. We got the win thanks to you. You'll have lost that game by 40 points. You got crushed in any sense of the meaning. But thanks to you, you got your nation the win it needs, and now 7 of your friends are having a great time. You're going to go out drinking to celebrate it, and it will be a memory you'll keep for the rest of your life.
It sounds like a cathartic experience and a beautiful one. And I think everyone saw it. Obviously, bigger stakes in Australia. Like we were waiting on Simon Bojkovic to put in the scores for his last game against Poland, and then everyone, like as you said, shook their hands and they celebrated when they won the game, and or won the round and won the championship. So yeah, it sounds amazing. And like as you said, like when there's that team format gives people that opportunity, like in very very bad matchups, if they can score 1 or 2 points, it makes a huge world of difference. So yeah, like I know. So recently we had like an online TTS league, and we had our Death Guard player play against Imperial Guard, and we're like, look, it's a red matchup, it's terrible, just score as many points as he got, and he scored enough points and we won the round. It was like massive win, so it was good for him. So shout out Tweak, formerly of Contact Loss. So absolute legend, that guy. So yeah, so you go ahead, Ishik.
And that was TTS, so you could potentially watch it as well. But imagine it being in real life, where you have traveled, in your case, probably at least hundreds of kilometers, if not thousands, because Australia is a giant country as it is. And it's not something that you can get at a computer game. That's not something you can get at even most team sports like football and soccer, although it's not so evident that your contribution is seen. Like in soccer, in football, probably actually. In football, you might have done great tackles, but even your contribution is not as visible, and you might not get the recognition. But in 40K, the team play especially, you get something that I haven't seen before in my life. That, at least for me, it is what made 40K team tournaments and WTC in particular the best event, the best organization, the best event, the best tournament I've ever participated in, and am proud and privileged to be a part of, to say the least.
Yeah, so like obviously, so people who are unaware, so obviously you're part of the ETC before, and like this year, it wasn't supposed to be the first year, but like this was the actual first year in which WTC ran, because I think you tried to launch it in 2020, and we all know what happened there. And then just delays, and like you would try to launch in 2021 with big hopes and ambitions. Unfortunately, obviously, due to still restrictions, people couldn't attend. But like, what was some of so obviously you, Neil, Tom, and yourself were involved in probably the big head honchos who are running or looking to run WTC. What was like the decision process like? Obviously, we don't have to get into the politics and stuff of leaving, but like, what was that stress and like, I guess decision? Like, I just wanted to understand like what was some of the process made to actually run the WTC? Like, what made you decide that this is a thing we want to do, and and then grow?
Yeah. Okay. The politics have to be like the internal nerd drama has to be somewhat be mentioned.
You can talk about it. That's not an issue at all.
I'll keep it brief. Because I think everybody, even back in we were in ETC, wanted the same thing: to have the biggest event worldwide where everyone could attend and have the most fun possible. Because this is one of the things that is genuinely the more the merrier. It's like it doesn't matter if it's like you can have 800 player events, but one 400 player event is more fun than those 8 events combined. So it just had a very different perspective on the way forward, and that made it impossible to have us as the 40K players to be in the ETC. And we decided to leave with the 96% majority, with only one vote that was not for leaving. And so, but even that was not because not because those people did something wrong. No, we just said, okay, we wish you the best, but our path forward for the 40K players was different than the path you see for the ETC in general. And what happened after that is, obviously, this happened in January 2020, which was, let's say, a bit. Then things happened from with unspecified viruses from unknown origins, and what happened then is, this was all full credit to Tom. Is even though we didn't have an event, it was obvious we wouldn't have an event. He really pushed us to have the FAQ and the rules pack and the terrain maps out, even we were sure we were not going to have an event in 2020. Like, it was guaranteed that was not going to be an event. But thanks to TDS, we were able to perfect the terrain maps. There were several iterations. I think the first publicized one that was released as a map pack, a proper document, was version 13. And this is like, there were several 6.1, 7.2, and like maybe 100 versions in between the final release and the first one. What happened, and thanks to that, we were able to be ready for a proper event. And 2020 was obviously didn't happen. 2021, we decided to postpone it, not because we couldn't have an event. Organization-wise, it would have worked fine. But this was supposed to be the World Championship. This is supposed to truly represent the world's 40K players. And at that point, this would be August 2021, where only a dozen, maybe at most 20 countries could come to Austria. That was the location that was picked. And that wouldn't have worked. That wouldn't be fair to the players who couldn't attend, because like, Australia won the very first WTC and they fully deserved it. They deserved it, and it would be an injustice if there was an event and Australia couldn't attend it, and they wouldn't be the first WTC winner.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it would have been, as you said, like a dozen to like 2 dozen sort of countries, like, and they've been all probably more mainland Europe countries. So it'd been like a ETC 2.0, but no, obviously called the WTC. It's almost like the Americans calling their football, like, or their sports,
their World Series,
the World Series and the World Championships when it's only played in America. But no, that's an easy joke to take. So but yeah, so yeah, go on.
It's always fun to jab Americans because it's just this. Anyway, back to the topic. But for example, I still had an event, the very first Alpine Cup, in that exact same date, in the exact same venue, which turned out to be a success. And so it wasn't an organization thing, but it was the proper thing to do. And sometimes the proper thing to do, especially with the certain institutions. And WTC is an institution by the players for the players still. That was the motto ETC had, and even though we were separated, that's still the same motto. We are still players, both me, Tom, and Neil, and the people we are recruiting to work with us right now, which some of you have been announced in the Facebook page, which more will come. We specifically come from our internal, like our local communities. We are all effectively community leaders by action. I think all of us were captains of our own communities at a certain point. I was a captain of Team Turkey. Currently, there's no Team Turkey because of financial reasons mainly. But when there was, I took Team to ETC 4 times. Tom was the captain for Team Belgium many years. Neil was a ref and part of the community of the Scotland. Now he lives in Sweden, so he's in the Swedish community. And everyone, and so that actually sort of creates some bickering as well, because we're all headhunters in our own community, but we have to work together. So we have to make compromises, and that usually manifests in a result that none of us are happy. So we have to make a decision with that regard WTC, and none of us want it, but it's the best we can come up with because we have very different approaches to event organization in general. But we became together and we wanted to create the best event possible because I genuinely don't think anybody in the international tabletop 40k community, international 40k community, actually wants the bad thing. I don't think anybody is malicious, but people just have very, very different goals. Like not goals, but very, very different approaches. Yeah, the approaches is a better word because some see that being the more numerous the players, the better. Some think that although like a tournament might be smaller, but the exclusivity is the attraction. And some might think we need to focus more on the hobby side. And it is what it is. Like we each have to each their own. And I'm happy that the international scene is so big now. It's difficult to organize events as a multiple organizer because the calendar is very competitive. It's very, very busy. And I have to, in the past, let's say in the 2019, when I had the Winter Champ the last time before this one, I was able to start ticket sales 3 months before. And it was okay, and everybody came. Now, I wouldn't do that unless I could start ticket sales 6 months in advance, which means there is not an arms race, but a level of standard that has increased. That people expect more from organizers now. That there's really even a GT sized event that doesn't have its own pack, that own rules pack, map pack, and every tournament is trying to make. If they are not using the WTC FAQ, they are trying to create their own FAQs. Everything is better, which it's Games Workshop's rising tide lifting all boats, which is a nice thing. And many fingers crossed they don't fuck it up with 10th edition.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I'm sure they won't. Fingers crossed, right? But
Yeah.
yes. But yeah. So obviously you talked about there. So you talked about how like obviously a rising tide lifts all boats, and that is it sort of something you see more like mainland Europe. So for people who aren't aware, so is you still living in Turkey or currently living in Turkey?
I live in Turkey. I
Yes.
live in Turkey. I have my cats here. I have my family here, and it's a nice country to live in. Although not at this very moment in the eastern part, but that's a different subject.
Yes. So, and like, is it sort of like something you said that that's sort of standard is raised across like more Central Europe and like mainland Europe? So we've talked to a bunch of, I guess, obviously people from France and Switzerland, Sweden and Iceland, and like it seems like a very common thing. Obviously, those people like use the WTC FAQ, the WTC rules pack, and stuff like that. But obviously, over in the UK and the British Isles, they use obviously a lot of the UKTC the UKTC stuff. So, I guess my question is like, is that sort of that standard sort of raised just because of like Central Europe and the rise of WTC, or do you think it's also it's sort of I guess growing also interstate? Obviously, we've recently had some controversy with the LVO, and in the past had controversy about the LGT and sort of their terrain issues and stuff like that. And I guess I think it just takes time, right? The community is growing so rapidly that and we're getting through all these issues.
Yeah, there is in some ways, obviously, the Americans lead the way just by sheer size, just because they literally make like LVO was like 940 or 960 list submissions, and that I think that makes it the biggest singles event of 40k ever. But some quality-wise, I reckon the Europeans are more ahead, and it's not just people copying each other. It's although it happens. Like I'll be honest with you, I go through the FLG photo galleries trying to understand if there are any cool ideas to nip from, which is it is what it is, right? And because it's people goes and people take your stuff, they have ideas in general. I'm not talking about intellectual property theft. That's not the case. And people try to do the best with the resources they have, like the UKTC it builds their terrain with TT combat terrain, which is decent terrain, but it's built especially for It's a mustache. As by the way, nice. It says nice beard on the chat, but it's a mustache. The For example, the terrain in the UKTC is just one terrain effectively being used all around in just one country. The terrain is for the WTC might be different because we don't have an event every 2 months. We have, or every month really. We have an event once a year. We enter that venue the day before, and we have to pack up almost within 12 hours after we are done. So that means that the entire terrain needs have to be different, although it's more of a logistical challenge more than anything else. And so you have to approach it at a unique as its own unique problem, and which usually works out fine if you are honest about it. If you come to your players and say, okay guys, we are going to do this, we're going to use this terrain, we are going to use the map pack which aims to do XYZ, and the rules pack is done via this way ABC. I'm not saying do it democratically, because that's not really, that doesn't work, because it's too fluid, or usually the loudest people get what they want instead of the being the true voice of the player base. But what happens is, if you genuinely listen to the players, you usually can get some nice ideas. One thing, by the way, the reason that why WTC terrain existed as the Wayland-Yutani terrain, as its terrain producer exists, is Zach. Not because any ideas are from him or anything. Like you mentioned the 2018 LGT.
Yeah.
Is infamous for its terrain.
Yes.
I was following that train wreck happening slowly throughout the week, because it's like, as Zach started posting Facebook Live videos of them making terrain, and this is like early 2018, and this is at the same time I'm experimenting with my terrain and trying to see how we can get good, efficient, standardized terrain for 2018 ETC. And like, it's by the end of day 2, it became self-evident that the terrain would not come out in time. And this is like Friday before. So there's still a week.
Oh no.
There's still a week until LGT happens, and it's not going to come out in time, because just by numbers, it's not going to work out. You have to spend at least 30 minutes per terrain piece to make it look well. Even if you have like 10 people working 8 hours a clock, it's like you make the math, and it will not work out. I was like, oh, we cannot have that. We need a method that's proper, that works out fine, and that's usually like just that's the main thing that when I mean by watching other tournaments. You take the good things that they do, and you live like the tide. That's why it lifts all boats. Like most European tournaments use the WTC rules, which is what okay thing. We would just want the event to give credit to the WTC FAQ or the map pack if it uses it, which all of them do. But it also is a learning experience. We learn what not to do from other events, and so when there's a controversy, and if it's a genuine controversy, and usually people can tell between, let's say, there is a difference between messing up a pairing software glitch, pairing some third place with the 25th place, and a water bottle being misplaced, and moving certain models away.
Allegedly, right? Wink, wink. No.
Nudge, nudge. And that's the most important part. If you are genuine, the players understand. And back to your question, so I'll wrap it up and hand it back to you. The WTC standard is created for the WTC. It is the design principle is mainly with many things. The games can't end on turn 1. This event is once a year. We need to make sure you get the most out of your travels, and the players have games that they feel they have a shot, at least to get some points.
Yeah, absolutely. So you touched on there also about sometimes like when organizations have like the worst moment ever. Obviously, LGT back in 2018, like they had the terrain controversy. So if people are unaware, like they had like obviously styrofoam, like they just ran out of time establishing good enough terrain, and obviously it was talked about loudly enough, and then the UKTC have developed from here though and improved greatly in their terrain series.
For sure, I'll give it to UKTC. They are a very good standard for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was definitely a learning mark in 2018 for them, and not a how do you call it? Not a, I can't remember the word. Not a stain that lives with them forever. It was definitely clean, and it's definitely a great tournament circuit. Although I'm not allowed in UK, so I can't attend.
Oh no.
No. Part of being a Turkish citizen, the visa process is brutal, and so I haven't been able to attend one of these, but all my friends says it's great.
Oh, well, maybe one day. I think then allegedly UKTC might expand out to more broader Europe or potentially across the sea, but we'll guess we'll wait and see. But maybe you can attend one of those, but maybe one day. Anyways, so we wanted to talk about, so lots of, obviously being a TO and a tournament organizer, bad things are going to happen, right? You can't prevent everything. What are some of the worst moments, or what's like one moment that stands out in mind as being the worst thing as a tournament organizer? Just like,
how much time do you have?
We got time. Like, I mean,
because this is really. I sort of got my, let's say, apprenticeship in 2017 ETC Salamanca, which was like, I organized local tournaments, but they're like 16 people max, which you show up at the morning in your local gaming store, you use the terrain there, and everybody knows each other already. So there's the things that can go wrong is at worst the tournament runs an hour late. Right, that's the worst that could happen, and your friend gets angry with you because you made a ruling that they were not happy with. So you have to buy him a beer and talk to them that evening. That's the worst. ETC 27 Salamanca, it was not through anybody's bad intentions, but it was a mess. It was simply not being able to be prepared because the people left in charge were not ready. And I'm one of those people, by the way. I wasn't ready to be the only active chairman in that year. And I compiled all the rules packs. I compiled all the army lists. I made all the pairing cards. And for systems that I don't play, so it's like trying to manage a forum and trying to recruit refs. And the Spanish local organizer was not equipped for this either. We didn't sign up for it, actually. It was somebody else who won the bid for Salamanca and then had to move out of the country. So handed the job to him, which he didn't sign up for. And it was Hector, and he's one of the greatest guys you can meet, and he's a nice guy, but it was certainly not him or me were ready for this task, and it showed. The first round of 40K started an hour late. The first round of 98 started 45 minutes late, and the terrain was so not ready, not enough terrain. There were terrain coming in at the second day of singles for the first day of the team event from random cities across Spain, and the terrain made there was not enough. Because it was so not enough that, let's say, they made the styrofoam L's, but there was not enough terrain. So I had to break those styrofoam L's and make forests out of them, so there would be some terrain in the tables. And then there was this infamous carpeting that, glad nothing happened, but there was, let's say, it was in a sports hall, so they wanted you to put carpeting in, but the carpeting was like a meter wide thing that you rolled out, and people's feet start tangling up on it later down the day. So every day we had to fix that up, and people's feet all started tangling up to it, and nobody dropped. So that was good. That was fortunate, but it actually became sort of a hazard later down the week. But the venue wants you to have carpeting, so you have to. But you don't think of like, okay, is my carpeting a trip hazard that you don't really think about it at your normal day if you make events.
No, absolutely not. No. Oh my gosh.
And you don't really think about those things like, oh yeah, registration at a 30-person event takes half an hour, whatever you do. Registration at a 200-person event, if you mess up beforehand, takes 3 hours. And you need to make sure you are ready for that. But I'll hand it to them. The Salamanca organization had the best food in ETC plus WTC so far. The Spanish food was magnificent. The town of Salamanca was great. They organized a parade for us, and it was one of the most enjoyable ETCs, except for the tournament itself. And then most players went to Madrid or Barcelona after or before the event. And Spain in August is a marvelous country to be in. It's really enjoyable, and it was a great week. But organization-wise, it was a headache, and I sort of blank out. I sort of like rolled it off in my head, and that's not even the worst thing. Actually, this is just pre-event mess ups that you don't really think unless somebody tells you to think about it, or you have it for yourself. This is like because nobody will tell you. Okay, you need flooring. Okay, we got flooring. We got carpets. Okay, is your carpet a trip hazard? Can it become a trip hazard after 3 days? You don't really know that unless you have an event there for 3 days. And this is not the worst thing. This was the worst thing that could happen pre-event. And there's the during the event things that can go wrong. And I will not give any year because I don't really have permission to disclose when it was. But in one of the ETCs, we actually were threatened to get kicked out of the player hotels. This is like 400, 500 players. It was a genuine thing, a genuine problem that could have happened. And lawyers had to be called in from their vacations.
Oh my God.
It's like notaries, which have significant power, because they're public notary, right? In order to come and explain to the people who were threatening us, if you do that, you can sure threaten to kick the people out. But what will happen is you are now obligated for those people staying for 400 players in the middle of a city in the middle of August, which they might not get. You don't really get to kick those people out. And that's one of those things. That's it. It's hundreds of players. It sort of has to leave the tabletop gaming part and just becomes an event management. And one of the other things is you have to be aware that the companies you work with are not trying to screw you over on small details. And I mean screw you over not as in they fine print and get extra fines. No, I'm literally meaning screw you over as in let's say there has been one. This is a different event, but in certain countries, I'm going to give very esoteric here, but this information is needed.
It's okay.
In certain countries, if you form a new company, you don't have to pay VAT tax for the first year. It is actually quite common, especially across Europe, in order to encourage new businesses. However, if you're, let's say, a bit shady person, you just open a different company with a different name with your cousin and your sister or your mother, and you go down like 10 years from family members, and you have to make the event, and you have to consider that you're going to get some VAT reimbursements, or at least you're going to be able to. The cost VATs are going to cover the income VATs a bit. But if you don't really check the invoices you get, you might suddenly, let's say, get an invoice that doesn't have VAT on it, but the total is correct. So you're supposed to have let's say 25% or 20% or 30% VAT on it. So you're supposed to pay the full amount, but you're supposed to cancel the VAT out. But the total amount is correct, and you miss it. And now you are in thousands of dollars that you paid for something you legally were supposed to pay, and you paid it, but that wasn't the amount you agreed to. You agreed to the pre-VAT price with the guy. And now you're counting on the refund of, let's say, $3,000, And now you're not going to get that $3,000. That $3,000 is gone.
Oh my god, yeah. And so for people who aren't aware, VAT is like the European tax system. Like
it's value-added tax. It's like a sales tax. It's usually 20 to 25%. In Turkey, it's 18. And okay, you will not know this can happen, and this is so removed from 40K that I know I'm explaining this in a 40K podcast, and it is really esoteric. It's like, if you don't have an event with for 200 people, this is not going to come up at all. This cannot come up because there's no amounts like that. And by the way, this event wasn't made for the money. This event lost more money because of it. It was already always going to lose money. And now what are you going to do? You can only learn a lesson from it, and you cannot do anything else about it. You cannot really sue the guy because the lawyer costs are going to be so much that it sort of makes it not worth it. And okay, now you're in a very different ballpark, out of your depth usually, if you're doing this as a hobby, and if you're just a regular old guy who started doing tournaments and now you're doing 32, 64 player tournaments, and now you want to take a shot at making a proper GT at, let's say, at some place. You want to rent a hall, you want to get the tables in, you want to get the other stuff in. And okay, now some asshole has, I don't know if I can swear. I'm swearing, but I didn't ask for permission.
Go ahead, man. Limit it, but you're fine, man. It's okay.
Some asshole has screwed you over $3,000. You don't have any repercussions against him either, because you're not really a big shot. And okay, now you live in a different world. Now you're not in the 40K world anymore. This is an entirely different world. You're in the world of business, which is not the same way as doesn't work the same way as 40K, because 40K you all have a shared value. You all share the value of the glorious emperor of mankind smiting Xenos and heretics and demons. But now it's some shady people that you have to have contracts in. You have to make sure the venues are right, and you have to then find out that the Austrian government doesn't have to have floor plans for their building, so you have to go measure the floor plan with a laser measure, because although the private building codes have to have updated floor plans, the Austrian government is not obligated to update for their floor plan, so the floor plan they have is actually 4 times bigger than the actual flooring they have, which means you have to go measure with a laser measure. You have to buy a laser measure from China, get it to Austria, measure it so you can put the tables on the goddamn floor plan. And this is, you have to do that now with every country. In my case, because this happened in 2021, because I know. And now I have to do that in Greece, I have to do that in Croatia, I'll probably do it in Italy. And in every place I go, I actually have a laser measure, I think around here, literally here, this thing, and I have props and everything. And I have to take it there because I cannot trust the government authorities, and nobody will tell you the floor plan is incorrect, or there is no floor plan. This is funny. I'm laughing at it because it's at a certain point it becomes funny. But what if I didn't ask a floor plan? What if I made a tournament and just because of, let's say, through sheer luck, we got 250 players in our first year, but then the venue is only 500 square meters, which is not enough. In my formula is generally 5 square meters per person to have a tournament table that you can walk around with the extras. Okay, instead of a 2,000 square meter hall, you're going to get 500 square meters. Have fun. You can't solve that. So that's why I travel to all tournament locations, or at least my local. When I mean local, I have to have a local partner in this, which is usually a 50-50 endeavor, at least when it comes to recognition and authority. They have to go check the venue and take measurements themselves, because you have to do that. And I don't have the luxury of going to every country several times a year. I'm one guy. It's a very good job. I'm not saying it's a bad job. I'm really enjoying this. I don't want to complain, but nobody tells you this in before when you start doing a 16-person RTT.
No, absolutely not. No, I wouldn't imagine it's like if I want to run a big event, it's like I have to go to Austria and measure out my actual event venue. They're not going to be any floor plans. People like, oh, that's insane. So I guess issue like it's safe to say like what makes you keep doing this? Like why do you want to keep hosting and running events if like you have to go through all these hoops and hurdles to do it? Like I'm sure you have to ask yourself the question sometimes like why do I do this?
I asked and answered that question to myself. I think about at the end of 2018 because it was a literal like blood and tears experience, and ironically, like that were if for people who have attended, they know we broke 90 plastic chairs because the only plastic chairs we could get was apparently couldn't gain more than 100 kilos, and they don't really advertise that fact. And you had to carry tables. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Because the answer to your question is, it genuinely makes me happy to see other people happy. When I walk around a tournament and see 250 or 300 or 800 people that some would call me friends, although some would not, to see them play a game and see them happy, to bring them together for one thing. I'm an idealistic guy. I'm not a good guy. I'm definitely not that. But I'm like I'm going for that ideal because it is fun to see other people have fun. For me, I don't really enjoy. Uh, let's say I'm not like a TTS. TTS 40K is not for me for sure. I never enjoyed it. I don't play this game for the last 2.5 years. Well, no, 3 years. Yeah,
It's close to 3
almost
now, yeah.
2.5. Yeah, like I had only 2 games in 9th edition, and I was like, then COVID really went into full thing in, let's say, 2020 late winter. I was like, okay, I'll just not get back in. I'll just wait for 10. But it was great fun for people to come and enjoy the events. It's uh, is there a financial benefit? Sure, because there has to be a financial benefit. I've never been shy about it. Although it's not the WTC. WTC is not a financial endeavor. But if for somebody to do this as a job, they cannot do it part time. There's at a certain point, it doesn't work. You need to put in too much time, and the players need to be aware of the fact that they need to pay for certain services. They pay for it regardless. Either they pay for their taxes through the government sports halls, or they can pay to the hotels that the event is located in, and or they can pay to the TO with the ticket price. They pay this. It's paid. I don't want to get stuck on the money, but it's what it is. And that's what I enjoy. Back to the question. Sorry, I keep cutting you off.
I enjoy the money. That's not no.
I don't. The money is needed. I wish I was able to
absolutely.
travel from Turkey to different European countries without money. Then I would do this for free. If there's a billionaire benefactor that would cover all the tournament costs, I'll do the event for free. How about that?
There we go. We just need to get a sugar daddy to help run Warhammer tournament. That's all we need, everyone. Just call out Nurglenat. Surely Nurglenat can sponsor Işık, right?
Man, I'm like, there's some flies here. That's why I'm doing the weird motions. But yeah. But to answer your question, it might be the same reason you do this, that you do the podcast, because you might enjoy the comments people leave on the recording. Like, oh, this was a great podcast. I didn't know that would happen, quote unquote. And then actually, I am genuinely surprised people drove from Romania and Poland for the Winter Champ. Like, I still can't get it. It still blows my mind. I make the events, I sell the tickets, I make the terrain, and they come to Winter Champ. They drove for 8+ hours, and we had to change some of the like these are Romanians, for example, and they drove 8 hours. They stayed at a hotel, They don't have to do that. And this is Serbian. On the right side, the Gilda is a Serbian team, and the left is Romanian. And they come here from all across Europe. They drive their cars. It costs them a good amount of time, money, and energy. But they come there, and I'm impressed about their commitment, which makes me really happy that they choose my event to do that with. And they obviously go to other events, but like the next event that I'm going to host is the Alpine Cup. This is the Polish team. You can see Scarpa on the right side, and the secret American. And like the winter champ actually had an American friend of ours, Cyrus Chappell, who flew in from America just for this tournament. It's just wow. That is insane, and it's not even a big tournament. It's a 32-person tournament, but it's you come here for the community. The game is almost a sideshow. He says the game is the tax he has to pay to come attend to come spend time with us, and so when people come, take their time, genuinely put the effort in. I am impressed, and that it is great. I'll give some info about the Alpine Cup as well. It's already sold out. I'm not doing this as a promo or anything. The event is sold out at 200 players, and we will have players from UK, Poland, and all continental Europe, some Americans, and I'm genuinely surprised every time I look at the registration list. It makes me happy that people are taking their hard-earned money, hard-earned time offs, and making a trip out of it. Most people are driving, some are flying in, and they are making sure that they have a good time. And I love the responsibility and the result, mostly, but the result is most important. So they have a good time and they have memories. This is what does.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I was like, oh, like the community is fantastic, and I can vouch for it. Obviously, here locally, like the community that Warhammer brings, like as you said, sometimes the game's not great or things can be wrong and the issues with it, but the community brings and the people around it just make everything amazing. And like the friends you catch up with and the people you talk with, it's wonderful. It's beautiful. It's amazing. So yeah, and so I was obviously on your podcast and sometimes during interviews and stuff like that, you jokingly say briberies are not only just allowed, they're actually encouraged. What are some of your favorite examples? I assume obviously judge calls and stuff like that. Yeah, maybe some will lead one way or the other, but like, what are some of your favorite examples of briberies maybe happening?
This is sort of flies under the radar as camaraderie, but it's not. In this case, I'll give it to Romanians and the Northern Irish. Yeah, the Romanians if you pair against them in the WTC, they'll put a bottle of drink at the table. They'll open it up and they say, "We will not start pairing until this bottle's empty." And so it's 16 people, so it's only like 1.5 shots, so it's not that much. It's not as impressive as I make it out to be right now, but it is great. The bribery part is sort of tongue in the cheek. I have actually allowed list corrections that needed to be done if the player promised to buy a drink for his opponent every match.
There we go.
And I also enjoy this honey mead drink that the Polish have. I make them bring me a bottle every time they come to my tournaments, and it's not a surprise that they win every time. And the only time they didn't bring me a bottle, they didn't win, which is.
There you go. Facts concerns. The Polish aren't even good at 40k. They just buy Işık honeybee drinks, and that's why they win all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's great. That's usually it revolves around something fun, and you usually negotiate with the players about what. This happens with the proxies as well. This happens with the proxies and list corrections. That if you don't suspect any malintent, you don't really need to punish the player with 10 points of the list because not having proper list. It's not a helpful. It's not a corrective measure. Okay, punishing is there is a punishment, but if the player is trying to just get away from the punishment and not try to correct his behavior in the future, that's not a good thing. So the bribery is allowed and encouraged is a meme. It's not real. I wish it was. I would make more money and get more drinks.
Damn it. If only ethical and moral standards were a bit lower, Ishik.
Yeah, I wish so.
Too good. You talked about earlier in the podcast, so your Turkish community and stuff like that, so they haven't been able to attend WTC because of financial reasons. Do you think there'll be a plan for the 2023 Team Turkey, maybe for Warhammer 40,000?
Okay, so I'll ask you a question. What do you think? What is the inflation of your country? This is a genuine question.
It's a very good question. I think obviously right now everything happening, it's probably gone crazy, but generally it's like 2.5-3%. I imagine that's probably
okay. And Turkey the inflation is high, so guess me the highest official number you can think of.
150.
Official number is 80 actually, but the unofficial number is about 200 to 250%.
What? Get out! Oh my god!
No, it's our currency is devaluing at the speed of light, and I can't. Like, it's not that I'm holding captaincy. If any Turkish players is listening, they can take the captaincy just off me, and it's like have a shot at trying to form a Turkish team. It's difficult for everybody to make the not excuse, but divert their resources to 40k. And on top of that, there's obviously at this point the earthquake that happened earlier this week is obviously a huge disaster. I'm making jokes because I can't do anything. You're literally not allowed to go to those cities because people don't allow you to. Like the government wants to have a coordinated rescue effort, and so it's mostly financial. So you cannot go there, but it's mostly financial. We simply have become too poor, and you can blame many people for that. And like nobody's happy with their government, but it's the only government you have. You are stuck. We are simply stuck with it, and we try to make do. The Turkish community is not that small. It used to be very smaller, especially at the start of COVID. Like it just cut off, and the old guard sort of left. They were always just hanging on a thread anyway. They were there for their friends and not the game. The game was an excuse. And now there is a younger community that's spawning up across the Turkey in general. And there are some chat groups that are very active. But not the 40k is more about meme in that chat groups, but you can find the 40k people in that. So if you write, okay, I'm from this city, is there anybody that can help me with 40k, or can I play a 40k game? You usually are able to find somebody, but you have to have let's say a game date. You have to set down a certain time and be there at that time at that day to play. I would imagine it would not be possible to go there Saturday or let's say Sunday to find a game because it simply doesn't not how that works. You have to arrange a play date, and you have to be there, and you have to obviously agree to terms because it's like 2,000 points, competitive or not. Some players are just coming up, so you don't really want to go with the WTC tryhard list against them and make them make them not shoot anything because you outrange every model of theirs by 12 inches. So you just keep them at arm's length. But it's a friendly community. There's no drama. It's a nice community. I'm happy to be part of it, although I haven't been a part of it properly. I'll be honest with you. Like it's not that there's anything wrong. I simply focused on my own efforts and not at the local one.
Sure, I completely understand. Well, maybe when 10th edition rolls around, maybe Işık, you might start playing again, then get back into the community, and it'll be all. And we'll see you on the tabletop again. Maybe we'll see if you don't. Oh, if you decide not to run events?
I have like probably 50 to 60,000 points of armies. I do have a Warlord Titan somewhere in a styrofoam box. If I can feel that again, I'll be happy. And I have like 8 knights.
There we go.
Because I sort of went overboard by accident, and I bought a few more rides from secondhand. I'm like, shit. And that doesn't include armatures, so I need more armatures as well. And I have like 40 power armored Great Knights and 30 Terminators. So the potentials are really there. I just need to find the motivation.
No, more than fair. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, but like very similar to your old podcast, like Into the Squad. It's like you always ended every episode. It's like, what would you like to see out of your ideal WTC? So I guess we got to ask the question to you, Işık. What do you want to see in your ideal WTC, and like what maybe plans do you have for the future for 2023 and 2024 and beyond?
Okay, how many independent countries are out there? I want to see that many teams in WTC. I want to see truly world team championships of 40K. That's what I want.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Any other plans wherever in the venue, or you just want to see as many countries and many people as possible?
I think if we reach that point, I think if we genuinely become like expand enough that everybody can come together, most problems will solve. Like there will be logistical problems, but at that point, that would be the true form that I want the WTC to take shape of. Like the Olympics right now, or the FIFA World Cup. The FIFA World Cup is an ideal that any game or any sportive endeavor can be aspired to. It's once every 4 years, so it's not that common. It's truly global, and the story that goes on about it is memorable. People, literally billions of people, watched Messi win the World Cup. And it was truly a true good end to his arc. It was perfect story, right? Many years, many World Cups, the young star that, like if you follow football, the young star that beat everybody in Barcelona, win every cup possible. The one cup he couldn't win yet, and it would be his last chance, and he wins it, and it's the one of the greatest sport stories that can be out there. And I think 40K can be that because the camaraderie is there, the competition is there, the skill is there. And if we play our cards right as a community, not just WTC, just the 40K community in general, and if Games Workshop doesn't fuck up, this genuinely can be a true tabletop experience similar to chess or backgammon. We can have grand champions who roll around and are recognized for their skills. And although we sort of have that already with, for example, an Art of War is like that. Like Art of War as a group is one of those titans, and we can have that. We are very capable as a community. It's not a belief. It's not genuine. Like there's no unsubstantiated thing. I have seen it. I think we can. I think we can make this the not just WTC but the global 40K community a great thing and bring it to the place it can be in the long future.
Absolutely. And I think this year, like, there's going to be more and more countries out of, like, we obviously know there's going to be Team New Zealand, and I'm sure there'll be more and more countries from, like, other areas, like Asia and South America, that hopefully send their very first teams, and we just grow and grow and grow. And so, Işık, for what it's worth, there's 211 FIFA recognized associations. So there you go. Just have a 1,600.
That's the goal then.
There you go, 1,688 person tournament. Boom, easy.
Done. Super.
Easy done. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Işık. It's been a pleasure to talk to you and chat all things organizing tournaments. Do you have any final plugs or shout outs before we wrap things up?
Well, let's see. I do have a very long list, so I'll just use the best one. If you just heard of WTC, which is the World Team Championship of 40K, but never tried its rules or never tried its terrain or never just had a passing knowledge of it, do check it out. It is truly a world championship, and give your friends and yourself a shot at trying to join your nation's team. You might get into it.
Absolutely. Everyone's looking for more coaches and assistants, and people just play. Like, you can never have enough people to help out. So absolutely echo that. So no, thank you again for your time, Ishik. And if anyone wants to buy some WTC terrain, go check out Wayland Yutani. I mean, but you may or may not be associated with that, right, Ishik?
No. I'm definitely not associated with it in any other way than being the co-owner.
No worries. Awesome. Thanks, guys. You have a great one. Take care, everyone.